Wednesday. Hope everyone's having a great week halfway through. We've been looking this week at Jesus and his restoring, of Peter. We saw the setting last week, and we see how the Lord is restoring and doing what only God can do. But he's leaving us an example how to do this. Number one, he recalled Peter's failure by referring to his old name and the number of times he asked him, "Do you love me?" and then the notion, "more than these." Peter had to recognize his sin and see his sin for what it was. But he also at the same time respected Peter's feelings. He took a walk apart from the crowd so that he could minister and help them. But then I want you to see, thirdly, he reaffirmed Peter's fondness. He reaffirmed Peter's fondness. 3 times in this passage of Scripture in John chapter 21, he asked Peter, "Lovest thou me?" Verse 15, he says, son of Jonas, Simon, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. In verse 16, he saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter says, he saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He says, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he had said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus saith unto him, Feed my sheep. 3 times he asked Peter, Do you love me? Why? The Lord knew. The Lord knew that Peter loved him. So why did he keep asking? Because Peter needed to know that Peter loved him. Anytime the Lord ever asks a question in the Bible, it's not for him to learn anything, it's for us to learn something. Peter needed to know that God knew that Peter loved him. You see, when someone falls, oftentimes everyone thinks that, if that person fell into sin, they must hate God, they must hate the Bible, they must love themselves. No. They may have just made a really foolish mistake. They may have had a time of weakness, which all of us will have at times. And the fact is, the Lord, he wanted to reaffirm Peter's fondness. He wanted Peter to know, I am God, and I do know these things, and I know that you love me. I know that you made a mistake. Who hasn't? And the fact is this, that whenever we do make these mistakes, that's when the devil jumps on us and tries to bring every doubt into our heart and into our mind. And the Lord takes this walk with Peter. And he asked him 3 times, and every time Peter said, You know that I love thee. And I can just see the Lord, yes, I do. But ask the second time, You know I love thee. Yeah, I do. The third time, it grieves his heart, and that's when Peter kind of changes his tone. He says Peter was grieved because the Lord asked him the 3rd time. And he said, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. And I believe it's at that point it sunk into Peter what Peter was saying. You're right, God. You know that I love you. And the Lord, yes, I do know. Whenever someone makes a great mistake, it isn't necessarily, especially a believer, that they hate God or they trash the Bible. They just did something foolish. And they need to be reminded that you love God, don't you? After they've addressed their sin, after they've seen themselves and repented and with respect of feelings, but then we bring it to their hearts. You do love the Lord. Yes. Yes, I do. And we love the Lord for this reason. Because he first loved us. So the fact is this. He helped Peter by reaffirming the love that Peter has for the Lord in his heart. And even more, that God knew that Peter loved him. May we help people? Maybe you need that help. God knows you love him. God knows you made a mistake. God still loves you. Let's get back on our feet.